Welcome to Godsplaining, Contemplative Preachers, Contemporary Age. Each week, join the Dominican friars as they consider all things Catholic.
Hi there. Welcome to Godsplaining. This is Father Jacob Bertrand Janczyk here in Washington, D.C., and I am joined by our Father Patrick Briscoe up in Providence. Say hi, Father Patrick.
Hi, Father Patrick.
That's funny. The last episode that I recorded with Father Gregory, he did the same thing. So you guys aren't picking up on what it means to say hello on an episode, so I'm going to have to change that next time. But it's not just the two of us today. Usually it's just the two of us on our podcast. We have the pleasure of being joined by three other friars. It's a whole group of us here. We're probably going to talk over each other the whole time. But in any case, it's great to have some of the members of the Hillbilly Thomists with us who are working on releasing their second album in the coming months, hopefully in early 2021. So we're here with them to talk about the album. We're going to get a few sneak peeks at some of the tracks, which is really exciting. But by way of introduction, they're kind of just sitting here looking at me. But by way of introduction, we have Father Thomas Joseph White, Father Justin Bolger, and Father Jonah Teller, who's clapping for himself if you're watching the video. But really
There's
excellent
video?
to have. There's video. Yeah, we go up on YouTube, and we're super popular. We have like 300 views on all of our. Yeah, it's great.
I would have worn something completely different.
Well, the angle of your camera is not really doing it, but that's all right. We'll edit that down, so it's great. So Father Thomas Joseph, he entered the order in 2003. He was ordained a priest in 2008. Studied at Oxford for his doctorate. He's the founder of the Thomistic Institute, currently in Rome. So he's at the Angelicum in Rome. So he's joining us from across the pond. And then Father Justin Bolger entered the order in 2013, was ordained in 2020, same year as Father Jonah. Father Justin's up at Providence College with Father Patrick, not in the same room, not in the same space, but that's how we do things here on Godsplaining, because we don't know how to mix and use more than one mic in one room. And Father Jonah's here in DC, and he's finishing up his license, living at St. Dominic's. Also entered in 2000. No, you didn't enter in 2013. What year did you enter?
I believe I entered in 2013.
Or was ordained in May. So great. It's excellent to have you all here. Father Patrick, let's talk about the new album real quick, and then we can listen to them rather than listening to us.
Yeah, I think that's great. So the new album, the Hillbilly Thomists released their first album under the band name, just the Hillbilly Thomists. And after months of agonizing discussion, Father Justin, you came up with the new name of the album. What is it?
Volume 2.
I just thought that would blow our listeners away. They wouldn't see it coming. No one expects Volume 2.
No, they don't. Really creative.
So could you say a little about the inspiration of the name?
Oh, Volume 2? Well, it was the second one. It seemed to follow well from the first. And yeah, we just couldn't agree on another title. And so this seemed modest.
Compromise candidate.
Minimally classy, and something that we could just maybe perpetuate into the future. Many more volumes to come, hopefully.
The thing that I like about it is you're linking this up between a project that is ongoing, right? This thing that was the Hillbilly Thomists. You released the first album, and now we get Volume 2, an expansion of the project. But this album is different from the first album in important ways. The first album had a lot of different takes on some songs that people knew. On the first album, one of the songs that I love is your arrangement, Father Justin, of Amazing Grace. If our listeners have not heard that, they need to stop whatever they're doing. Stop the episode, go listen to Amazing Grace, come back to the episode. How is this album, Volume 2, different from the first album?
So this album has a lot more original songs. So I enjoy writing music. So I wrote some songs over the last few years, and those are featured on the album, as well as Father Thomas Joseph White. So he wrote a handful of tunes as well. So yeah, I think that's the biggest difference. We have a couple standards. I heard the voice of Jesus say. We also cover Hard Times by Stephen Foster, which is a great American classic. But most of it is original.
Right, right. Now, as we kind of dive into this conversation here, before we go any further, Father Thomas Joseph, could you talk about the origins of the Hillbilly Thomists? Maybe for people that didn't hear the first album, where did this project start? What is it? What are the Hillbilly Thomists?
Well, the Hillbilly Thomists started very informally. I think that's the most accurate way to describe it. I think, I always liked bluegrass music, and when I entered the order in 2003, the novice master, that's the person who's responsible for our formation, asked us to have a personal broadening hobby on Thursdays, and I thought it would be fun to learn to play bluegrass mandolin. And so we started playing a little bit in the novitiate with guitarists and mandolin and other things. But anyway, in subsequent years, when I came to Washington, the House of Studies, Father Austin Lidke had entered the order, and the two of us began to play with a couple other people, and we played bluegrass music kind of after priestly ordinations, kind of in informal settings. And I think Austin at one point just said, well, we should call it the Hillbilly Thomists, for the famous reference from Flannery O'Connor in her letters, where she says, people often think I'm a hillbilly nihilist author, but I'm actually a hillbilly Thomist. And that seemed right. So, that was a great suggestion. And then we played with some of these fellows when they entered. But, soon after, Austin and I kind of left the studentate and were you might say, in full-time priestly ministry. And that's sort of when then Justin took up the band and reformulated it.
Yeah, and it's not just you mentioned Father Austin there. It's not, and we have three of you on, as we mentioned at the top of the episode. The band is more than just the three of you. How many on this album? This new album? How many friars are part of that project?
I believe we're 8, if I'm not mistaken.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I think one of the kind of really beautiful things about the Hillbilly Thomists, and as Father Thomas Joseph mentioned, the sort of informal or kind of grassroots formation of the group, is that it's something that comes out of our life lived together, I guess. But if you kind of think Dominicans and bluegrass, I don't know if those are natural connections immediately. Father Jonah, I guess if you could say a little bit about how this kind of works, why this kind of works, both kind of within our own communal life, but also as kind of producing bluegrass music, how that works for us.
Sure. Well, I guess we're always sort of hesitant to call it bluegrass music because none of us can actually play fast enough to qualify for it to be called bluegrass. So it just that genre seemed to sort of just get thrown at us and stick. So we just want to say
we are playing faster, Father.
We're playing faster, but we're not playing fast. Yeah, we are getting faster. So maybe by volume 12, we can maybe call it bluegrass. So that's a goal. But just for all the bluegrass purists who listen to Godsplaining, we just want to get out in front and say that we don't identify, as a bluegrass band. So you can put those clubs and torches down. We're Americana, I would say, kind of rootsy, still seeking a genre. But no, but to your question that what do Dominicans have to do with folk music at all? Since it's not it's not Dominican chant or anything like that, but we're preachers. We're an order of preachers, and so we spend a lot of time, yes, chanting and praying and contemplating and beholding God. But then we go out and we encounter the world as it is, and then we respond to it according to the gifts that God has given us. And at this time, in God's providence, He's drawn together a number of friars who love music and love playing music with each other. And so I think it's really been a very natural response to something that we loved doing together as brothers that eventually became outward facing, but originally it was something that we just enjoyed playing music together. And so that's how it became, I suppose, Dominicans playing, for lack of a better term, bluegrass. But no, I think that the preacher can make use of any good thing for the sake of furthering the gospel. And so we happen to be, making use of resonator guitars and upright basses right now in our life.
That's awesome. Very cool. Now, the first album, Father Justin, can you remind me what year that was released? It was the last couple of years, right? The first album was released?
2017.
Okay.
December 2017.
2017. So if you haven't checked out the first album that was just released a few years ago, do that. And the reason I bring that up is because on the cover of the first album is not you all, and it's not some sort of like art design, but it is friars, and it's friars from a sort of bygone era. It's a really cool picture of friars, I believe from the 1940s. It might be earlier than that, 1920s, 30s. Father Jonah is saying no. Anyways, I stopped talking and let you talk about it. You can tell us when that was, but also with kind of Americana kind of instruments. I won't say bluegrass because I don't want to get Father Jonah upset again. But I guess tie in that tradition. Explain that cover. I've heard rumors about the cover for the new album. I won't give that away. But how does this kind of sit in the history of things? Because it's not just out of a sort of vacuum that playing music and this kind of music has occurred.
Yeah, actually, I think that picture is from the 1600s.
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah, no, it was the first picture taken after the Reformation. It's really impressive.
To show that indeed priests were men of the people.
That's right. Like 28 was it maybe?
1628 or 15?
Yeah, 1628. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, flip that 6. I think.
Yeah, so I think
this is why you guys don't have guests, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. This is why we don't have you on the show, actually.
Okay, fair enough.
I guess are fine.
So I think that's just a great image of that. The image of our fraternity as Dominicans that we always, at least we have enjoyed for a long time, playing music together, enjoying each other's company. And then sharing that. So I think it's just a great image of the continuity of fraternity and music within our order.
That's great. All right, so we have a couple minutes left on this end of our episode, and we're going to play for you a clip in just a moment of one of the songs of Jericho Blues, one of the songs on the album. I know, Father Justin, you're singing on this track. Is this a cover? Did you write this? Tell us a little bit about it before we tune in.
Right. Yeah. So I wrote this song. It's called Jericho Blues. So it's a blues song, and. One interesting thing about this is I wrote it in an alternate tuning, the Delta Blues tuning, which there's kind of a traditional standard tuning of a guitar, and the Delta Blues tuning refers to the Mississippi Delta, where blues kind of originated. So I dropped the guitar into that tuning, and it's really fun. Blues is as simple as a genre, but it's a beautiful genre because it's this great, I think, combination of joy and suffering all in one thing. And so in Jericho Blues, we have the suffering of little Zacchaeus, who is wandering around Jericho collecting taxes, but of course is an outsider and is missing something, namely Jesus. So it's kind of about his plight there in Jericho.
Great. Well, let's tune in for a little sample of the track, and then that'll bring us to our break. So after the track, stay tuned, sit tight, and we'll be right back with you. Here we go.
Well, I'm short, my Lord, short in all kinds of ways.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Godsplaining.
This is Godsplaining. Get up to date on all our latest episodes at opeast.org/Godsplaining.
Welcome back to Godsplaining. I'm Father Jacob Bertrand here with Father Patrick, and we're joined by the Hillbilly Thomists, or some of the artists on the Hillbilly Thomists, Father Thomas Joseph, Father Justin, Father Jonah. Just before our break, we got a real treat of listening to one of the tracks on their new album, or at least a little part of it, which was really cool. Jericho Blues, a blues. I guess the title kind of describes what it is, but Father Justin described it, told us a little bit about it. We're going to get a little peek at a couple of the other tracks too in the second half of this episode as we go on. But before we do that, Father Patrick and I, we were wondering about how you guys put this all together. How does it work? How do you kind of come up with the idea? How do you come up with the vision? What's the recording process look like? Are you guys stuck in a studio like, I don't know, like Adele, or are you kind of doing your own thing? Tell us about it. Just fill us on the whole kind of vision and process.
Well, Adele's certainly an influence.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that was really great about this album was we went up into the Catskill Mountains, and we stayed up in a large house up there, which the province has access to, that has a chapel associated with it where we could pray together and continue like living the religious life. But we basically cleared out this giant living room with a wonderful domed, sort of a ceiling like a Swiss chalet. So it had excellent acoustics. And we set up all the recording instrumentation there, and basically worked creatively on the songs together in a much more intense way than we were able to do last album, just because of time constraints. So we took 10 days to record the 14 songs, which was a pretty brisk clip. That was a fairly work intensive 10 days, but it was also wonderful creative kind of process, because we would play the song that someone brought. Say, for example, Father Justin brought that song, and we would play it together and try different things that worked, bring the kind of ideas and innovations of different people to it, and eventually decided what we wanted to record, sometimes layer in more things afterwards. So for us, just as, I think as priests, it's not a typical thing to work together to record an album in that kind of creative way, although some people here have that background. So, to kind of figure out what it is to be, to work together as a band and play together and try new things creatively was really enjoyable. And it shows up in the album. In this last song you heard, you can hear, you got just in the beginning of Peter Gauch's brilliant mandolin solo. You can hear the slide of the resonator guitar in the background that I'm playing. There's a very interesting rhythm guitar that Justin's playing. And of course his lyrics, and he's making little references and motifs. So he refers to the Taxman. There's an obvious image there of our reference to the Revolver album, Beatles. So we put in a lot of interesting things that were fun along the way, and integrated them, brought them into unity.
I've always felt the Dominicans are great. If we are great,
yes,
we're greatest when we're together. I mean, I do think Dominicans are great. I became a Dominican because our charism is incredible. But I felt we're always strongest when we're acting out of our fraternity, right? That's one of the beautiful things of the Godsplaining project. It's a couple friars chatting, but clearly the fraternal element is strong here and is part of what's driving the creative process. Father Justin or Father Jonah, do you have any particular moments that express that fraternity coming out in the recording process? I mean, just what it's like to be with the brothers, to be working on something together. Do any moments stand out from your time in the mountains?
Well, one aspect of it was we had in this living room a lot of different instruments kind of just laid out that we all brought. And so we would get up in the morning, have mass, prayer, breakfast, and then go to the living room and say, okay, well, we're going to work on this song this morning. And different friars would kind of gravitate towards different instruments, and we just pick it up, try it, see how it sounded, and we would kind of rotate like that. So, there's kind of this, we're creative, we can adapt, we can kind of respect the creativity and the adaptability of each other in order to create, like Thomas Joseph said, one thing. There's a great kind of unity to the finished product.
One of the things that I heard, I guess, from talking to some of you and hearing about the process was that y'all learned, or a couple of you learned, how to play the upright bass just for the album. Like you hadn't played it really before. Is that the case?
Right. Yeah. So I played the bass, that you go,
that's really good form.
The sideways bass.
Sideways bass. And there's a scene from School of Rock where he's like cello, and then it's the opposite thing. Anyway, so you just turn it like this and you play it, and that's an upright bass. Now I did have to rent it, and it's huge. An upright bass is very large, so it did fit in my little car. And by the end of the recording process, I kind of learned how to play it. But so the beginning songs, they don't sound as good. That's okay. That's part of the journey. Now, I should also note that, part of our adaptability and creativity is even letting Father Patrick and Father Jacob Bertrand, into the group. I remember in the beginning, we would sing Irish songs together, right?
Yeah, we're just going to talk about this album though. So
that could be that could be volume 3.
Yeah.
Maybe the two of you should sing something right now, one of those
No. Not yet. Not yet. We don't want to take the focus. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do remember that Father Justin has an older brother who's a priest in the Archdiocese of Baltimore, and his parish had these parish kind of festivals. And one time there was a smaller group. It wasn't the full band was there, but I did sing with them. At least that was my one and only public appearance. And the reason I wasn't going to bring this up is because I was never asked back to do that. I've always told myself it's because I don't play an instrument and I just
no,
sing.
It's personality.
But I think there's a lot more. But I have to get to sleep at night, so I'm gonna just say it's because I don't bring anything else to the table but this shining personality and some vocal notes. So, all right, well, let's listen to a second track here. We're gonna tune into part of kind of jump in the middle of the song in a minute called "Bourbon, Bluegrass, and the Bible." I believe that this is a creation of Father Thomas Joseph Wright, if I'm correct. Do you want to introduce us to the song, what it is, and that sort of thing?
Well, there's some strange people in the Dominican order. So this is a strange song by a strange person.
This is such a good song.
This is probably a song about, psychology and survival in COVID quarantine, I think, but it's a song also about imagery of the South. And about basic goods. What are the basic goods in life when you're living in hard times?
Cool. Well, we're going to jump into the middle of it and just give it a listen for a second. Here we go.
Preacher don't lie, there's whiskey in the still. A fox in the rain done had his fill. Chicken in the bread pan, picking out dough. Play that song wherever I go. People on the left, people on the right. They don't need beer to get into a fight. Everybody's out in their disguise. The light in the morning just hurts my eyes. Yes, in the world and it's gone viral. Everybody's talking about a new revival. But when it's a question of love and survival, bourbon, bluegrass, and the Bible.
There we go. What a sweet song.
That song
is so awesome. So good.
The best part of listening to that was watching Father Justin here playing the air bass in his little room. So we got a taste for that. Yeah, that was great.
I will say maybe one of the best parts of the recording process was just loving the songs, like listening to them again. Like as Father Thomas Joseph put it at one point, like you can't listen to this song with your hands down. You have to have your hands in the air if you're going to listen to this. That was a consistent theme throughout. Like we would finish a track and we would say, that's the best song. I
was talking about another song for that, but yeah. I mean, I think sometimes we when you write the songs or when you play them, that song's full of Flannery O'Connor like imagery when you listen to it all. Well, I mean, or at least there's there's a lot of homage to O'Connor's violent Southern Gothic imagery in her books. So there's a little bit of that, and actually others of the songs as well.
So one of the things that's great that we've kind of been reflecting on is how things have changed in the group over the years, and how you've done something new with this album. Walking away from it, what are you really proud of having accomplished? What were real moments of grace for you in the kind of post-production process, in the sharing of the album that you've done so far?
One thing that stood out to me, and we've already kind of touched on this, but how we would, so we'd present a song that someone wrote, so usually Father Thomas, Joseph, or me, and we'd work with it. So this actually moves nicely into the next track, Heaven or Tennessee, because this is a song that Father Thomas Joseph wrote, but Father Jonah ends up singing it. And again, we kind of moved around with different instruments. And if you listen to the first little demo that Father Thomas Joseph made, in Rome with his banjo, singing a song he just wrote, Homesick for Tennessee, there in the Eternal City.
A Georgian homesick for Tennessee. It was a really beautiful moment.
Yeah. But so if you listen to that and then the final product, totally different. So that was I think just a beautiful part of the whole process and the experience. Just that creativity and looking at the finished product as pretty different than what was there at the beginning.
And I think there's a lot of fraternal harmony in working on it, which doesn't have to be when you're doing something that's so demanding and creative. It's not obvious. You all have this fraternal harmony, and we had that. And the other thing is, I think we have some members of the band, like Justin, Jonah, also I think Peter, and anyway, they have a lot of a high level of, I would call it like near professional or professional talent. In Justin's case, he was is a professional musician for entering, and I think those of us who are trying to contribute, who are being brought along a little bit, I think we found in the album making process we kind of reached into that more professional level. And I don't mean that in the sense of in a kind of way that we became more formal or we became even necessarily professional musicians, but we participated in a process of what it is like for a band to really make an album. It's just very fun, but we did it in a Christian context as priests too. So that was really interesting. And I know that for me, I grew a lot just playing as a musician. I played better than I've ever played before. And I think that was true of a lot of people for the album, because you put in everything you have.
Father Jonah, you got to sing this last song, the Heaven or Tennessee, that we'll play in just a minute. I guess if you want to answer the question that Father Patrick asked about what was kind of the best part, the greatest part, or tell us a bit about, or tell us a bit about the song before we put it on for a minute.
Sure. I think I just echo a lot of what Father Thomas Joseph and Father Justin have said, but I think that the joy that we had recording the music is palpable on the album itself, and that's something that you can't really replicate just by piecing together a song in a studio. So it was good that we're in a retreat house, we have a chapel right there, so that the Dominican life didn't have to end. And so we kept praying the office, we kept saying mass, we kept having our meals in common, so that all of these elements of our life continued, so that the album itself wasn't something that we did on the side, but it just became a natural extension of our religious life. And that was, I think, something that was really nourishing for all of us. As for, this song itself, I just loved it. And so I was just sort of playing it to myself on the guitar in the living room. And then Father Justin walked in and said, well, you're just going to sing the song. And which was a terrifying thing to hear because I had just sort of was not intending to sing the song. But it's great. The songs that Father Thomas Joseph writes and that Father Justin writes, they're just a joy. They sort of beg to be sung. So I'm from Ohio. I'm definitely not from the South, but I tried, and I'll leave it to, Father Thomas Joseph and all other Southerners. I'll just fall upon their mercy here, for what I do with this song.
All right. Well, we're gonna play. We'll be the judge of how you did just right now.
Oh, you're
We're
from
gonna listen
Connecticut,
to-
please.
That's fine. But I'm good at judging. So here we go. Let's tune in for a minute.
You can make the angels cry, make the stars fall from the sky, punish the wicked, justified, send down the fire that purified, bring down the grace like a summer rain, make the heart that's without stain, speak the word that's left unsaid, burn the world and raise the dead. I wanna go home, see my Savior. I wanna go far, see my family. I wanna hear angels sing in the midnight sunlight. I wanna go to heaven or to Tennessee. I wanna go to heaven or to Tennessee.
That's awesome. I approve.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Wow. Remember this day.
There we have it. All right. Well, we're nearing the end of our time for this episode. Thanks so much to the three of you, Father Thomas Joseph, Father Justin, Father Jonah, for joining me and Father Patrick here on this episode to give you all, our listeners, a little sneak peek at the upcoming album that'll be released in early 2021. If you haven't listened to the first album yet, definitely do that. Go on to Spotify, iTunes, buy a copy of the album. That way they can rake in a little money to support the cause here. But also stay tuned for the second one. One of the things that we're going to do here on Godsplaining for our listeners is we are going to have a sort of Hillbilly Thomist giveaway with some of the new stuff and some of their merch and swag. So if you leave us a review in the Apple Store today, we'll raffle off 5 of those kind of Hillbilly Thomist gift packages, whatever we decide to put in them. We don't know yet, but we're going to give you some stuff. So leave a review. If it's not a positive review, you won't be entered into the raffle. So leave a positive review, and you'll be entered into the raffle to win some stuff. As always, thanks for tuning in to Godsplaining. Keep us in your prayers. We're certainly praying for you. Like us, give us a review, share us with someone you think might benefit from listening to us. And until next time, God bless.
Thanks for listening to Godsplaining, a work of the Dominican Friars of the province of St. Joseph. Visit us at opeast.org.